The project happened at the beginning of this year in Santiago. Back then we had a definition of Santiago as a hub in Latin America. It has an economical, political, and sociocultural stability that was attractive for many different countries in the area of South America. Of course, we have all the traditions of conquest from Spaniards, Italians, even Germans in the country. So we wanted to do a link to explain why it's important to understand migration facing current times and actually include all these people that is arriving and coming into Chile for new opportunities to develop our own country. The numbers have increased consistently over the course of last years, and the last one increased almost on a double. So the population of the whole country now is 18 million, and the people that have arrived is about 1.1 million. So that's a lot. A lot of visas were requested in order to have new opportunities for job, mainly from Venezuela, Haiti, Peru, and Colombia. The exhibition that we planned wanted to be very visible, so we decided to work with the cultural center that is called Gabriela Mistral in the center of Santiago. And we wanted to be very clear of the signals that we put in the space. So we highlight the issue of the barrier that you have to go through limits, and people is looking at you, and you have a certain type of passport, and Chile, you know, wants some type of people and not others. So it was a very interesting moment in local politics about migration. The show was divided in two main areas, and the upper level, the show coming from Germany, we wanted to keep the design, the graphic design, and the situation of these corners in order to reflect and think about the ideas that Doug Sanders was promoting for the whole exhibition. And then we have a second floor, which was about Chile data, statistics, but also history with Germans that came to our country in the south of the country, bringing this very interesting architecture for Chileans, right? Like a neoclassical building in the south of the country, and nobody kind of really realized about that migration issue as well, right? In terms of the environment and architecture. We have commissioned work from artists, architects, and designers. We have two researchers that contributed to the show. More or less, this was the whole plan of the space. And in the main space, we have, you know, an open field in order to explore the different proposals that were done and actually developed with people from different communities, migrants, technically. We decided also to be very provocative in terms of what the government was thinking about these local policies, and we installed a flag made out of all the possible flags of the planet, right? Of course, that was an animation, but it was so real that people was kind of interested with that polemical approach towards the government palace. A lot of students came. We thought that education was the main issue that we needed to trespass. We have workshops with people coming from Haiti, from Venezuela, from Colombia and Peru. And this photographer did an experience with them in order to develop a series of photographs that will describe their lives in the city of Santiago. So that was the view in the main field of the exhibition space, and people will be interactive in the space that is in front of the government palace. That space is called the Square of the Citizenship. But because of security reasons, the square is surrounded by a fence. So we decided to emulate the space. We put green light as if we had grass in there, And we invited people to activate that space with the participation of several groups. This was an Afro-American group that came for the opening, telling us, reminding us that each of us somehow belong, you know, to Africa at some point in history. Then, of course, issues about how you display that on an exhibition space were dealing with other matters. So that was the main space again, and this place was also a space to connect Chileans with other cultures. We wanted to have food, but we were not able to bring in to the exhibition space. They didn't enable us, but they allow us to do classes. So every Saturday and Sunday, people can go there and learn how to dance from another culture. I'm very interested in performance and acting, you know, relationships. So this was a good opportunity for all of that. Also, we have this voting booth that was designed by GT2P, and the people that were invited to vote were immigrants because, of course, they cannot vote in Chile. So we were asking them if they were happy or not in Santiago, and 275 said yes, and the rest no. And I wanted to end with this image about the crisis that Peter was mentioning at the beginning. In October, Chile started to face a very problematic economical and political crisis that is ruling the country towards, we don't know, uncertainty. And all the numbers that went up because of the stability now are on a big question mark. So thank you very much. Rodrigo Tisi, I'm from Santiago, and the project name is Santiago Ciudad Destino, Santiago Arrival City. The first idea that came to my mind was related to integration, how to develop an exhibition that will highlight aspects of different types of integration. I believe that architecture enables that. But also, we were interested to look at different cultural conditions, and therefore the exhibition explored on that type of connection among people. Performance is a key word that developed this notion to somehow display present and presence within the show. Santiago has become a very important hub in Latin America, I believe because of the economical, political, and sociocultural stability of the country. That was until October 18th, last month. And because of that, Chile, the recent 10, 20 years became an interesting point in South America for different Latin American countries. Lately, of course, we have received people from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Bolivia and Peru. The key terms are related to that notion of performance and to enact integration and participatory experiences. So as a curator, I try to highlight the work of different artists, designers, and architects that will somehow show the process of that integration. We work with different groups of immigrants, and we develop projects, art projects, architectural projects, design projects with them as students, as colleagues, and that idea of the actual present and performance was all the time driving the aspect and the space of the exhibition. Very important because I believe that this is something that the world is facing. It's a problem that is happening everywhere. well, not a problem. This is a condition, it's a situation that we have to face and collaborate, actually. I think, you know, Europe and first world countries have the experience already of, you know, because of history, receiving different type of crowds, cultural crowds. And now the rest of the world is also facing those issues. So Santiago and Chile, which is very far from Europe, is also experiencing situations that are similar. Of course, we are a country in South America and not in Europe, so the conditions are different, but the immigrants are arriving to many different places. We had the opportunity to present this show on a cultural center, the GAM, in Santiago, which is a very big and popular, diverse crowd, different people also coming from abroad, a lot of tourism. And Chile in the recent year have been facing issues about immigration. So I think that the impact that the exhibition had among us in Chilean terms was very relevant. It was actually also linked to a moment that the government, the local government, was trying to implement new laws and policies to regulate immigration, and therefore there was a general attention to this issue in terms of, you know, communication, media, and tourists that will come to Chile will also somehow explore more about that new situation that the country is facing about immigration. Now, what recently happened in Chile with all this social crisis that we're facing is a big question mark of how we're going to deal even more with the social inclusion of all these people that we're receiving from South America.